we ask that you guide us and protect us during this time, that we might make wise decisions for all concerned, and be with us as we enter this meeting tonight in discussing the business of the county, that we may do so in your grace and with your guidance. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Opening board comments is always interesting. I'll start with Mr. Forehand.
Just one quick item. The activity regarding solar is getting, in some of the surrounding counties is increasing. And I think as a board, we should look at some overarching, some umbrella policies for the county. Start looking into those now.
Remember, we have the Planning Commission is currently looking at ordinances and is drawing one up. So that is definitely underway.
Okay, great. And even beyond the ordinance, an actual policy that the board can possibly adopt that kind of sets some parameters and things like that. So, right.
Okay.
That's it.
Mr. Black.
I think I had mentioned this, and I don't know, I think Mr. Couple things. From Parks and Recreation, if we could get an update, I don't know if there's, with some of the summer leagues and so forth, some of the people, so if those will take place at all. So some of the stuff that normally happens in Parks and Rec during the summer, months of June, July, and August. So if we can get an update as to what those will be, a lot of the outdoor stuff.
You want an email from Mr. Howard?
Yeah, that would be great. The other thing too, and I had talked to Mr. Schiebel about this, did you end up talking to someone about getting the Adopt a Highway stuff into the bills, that we could do that?
We talked about it with the pandemic that was going on, didn't feel it was a good time to put that out there for us to have to try to coordinate those activities without having a staff position.
Okay.
We can't hear that.
You need to come to the microphone, Mr. Schiebel.
That's Jeff Black's fault. Mr. Black's fault.
Apologize. Good evening. Due to the current pandemic, it was decided that we wouldn't try to put additional burden on staff of putting the information in there for Adopt a Highway, as we don't have that position to be able to coordinate that. So we were going to try to wait until things cleared up and hopefully can get that position in place.
December bills then?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And then the last thing I think I'd mention too is Mr. Cully, Mr. Schiebel, I don't know, whoever, we had talked about some of the stuff in our outside Parks and Rec, like the basketball hoops and Ladysmith and so forth. When would be a good time to reopen those and how? I think that's something that we need to have a discussion with as far as when we'll put the hoops back up. I know they're starting to go phase 1, phase 2 of the pandemic. So I don't know what time frame we were talking about here.
Mr. Cully's leading the charge with staff. We've had several meetings of opening the county back up in the process. We've got another one scheduled for later in this week for us to again talk about that. We've been talking with the counterparts, Spotsylvania, Stafford, and King George, about their plans and trying to open the same type of government services at the same time.
That makes sense.
For the region. So.
It's just, I've had a couple of constituents that have, I mean, I understand the whole quarantining, but some people are getting stir crazy and so forth. And with outside activities,
Absolutely.
they're
Those are things that we're looking at as far as a progressive opening of what services first and so on and so forth.
Okay,
so,
thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Underwood?
Hey, good evening, everyone. Yeah, I just want to piggyback on Mr. Black's comment. I'd like to know a little more about our plan to open up as we move forward and the state moves forward, the Commonwealth, I guess, what our plan is to how we're going to phase in our reopening. If you guys have had conversation, I'd certainly like to hear where we are at this point so far.
I'll have Mr. Cully put together, as soon as they figure out what the opening plan with the region is, send us all an email about what they think the dates would be. Is that sufficient?
I think that's sufficient. I'd just like to know, where we are now, like I said, what our plan is to move forward. So yeah, that would be fine. I just hope we have a plan. If the governor says you can open up tomorrow or you can begin, what is our plan to phase in employees. We have a lot of employees who are part-time, who are at home. So I'd like to see us begin to move in a direction that those people are doing something for the county at this point. So hoping that we have a process in place to move people back to employment, or back to work, I should say. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Mrs. Long?
I just want to put a reminder out to anyone watching the video or listening this evening about the census. We've gotten so swamped down with being careful and watching what we touch and how we wash and staying away from people. Don't forget to either fill in your survey and send it in, or go online and fill that out, because that's really important, especially with the possible financial loss this year, that we get every person counted so we can get that money from the federal government to us. So citizens, step up to the plate and help us, and make sure you get those forms filled out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Long. Mr. Thomas?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it. First of all, I'd like to commend and again thank all those essential workers who are helping us through this crisis: county staff, first responders, grocery and drugstore folks. I do appreciate the work they're doing, and also like us to support the restaurants that are trying to desperately stay in business. Mr. Forehand reminded me of something. I have been approached, I'm not sure if it's because it's in my district, but I haven't responded, about a solar project coming to the county. So I think the board should be aware that that's possibly coming. And I spoke to the Rappahannock Electric Co-op about their fiber utility network plan. That's actually a 6-year project that they're going to create a network of fiber throughout the county and throughout their service area. So they've signed an agreement with Orange County for Caroline, and right now, due to the coronavirus, they're of course.
Mr. Thomas, if you can hear us?
Yes. What happened?
We've lost everybody.
Am I back now?
I can hear you, Floyd.
I can
Well,
hear,
we've gone a couple meetings and not had this happen, so,
I can hear you also. Remotes can all hear.
oh, just the projector. Okay, so, but we can't hear them.
Oh, you can see me, but I mean, you can't see me, but you can hear me?
There you go, Mr. Thomas.
Okay, which would you like, to see me or to hear me?
Hearing you is probably better than anything.
Okay, yeah, I understand. Anyhow, the point is the co-op is right now focused on maintaining their service, but I did make overtures that the county would be very interested to a public-private partnership to expand, service throughout the county. This is especially true if we're going to expand to the Dawn Library. That might give us a chance to expand quite a bit in that area. And thank you, Mrs. Long, for sending that email. And in that same vein, I talked to Atlantic Broadband, and also am using some personal contacts to see if we can get some help from Comcast. And I'm going to ask Mr. Sadler if we can set up a conference call with the members of the broadband committee, just so I could pass out the notes that I have and to make sure that we get good ideas from them. I do have a couple of other things. I spoke to my school board member today, and the schools have made the decision that they're going to continue the Lunch and Go program through the summer, which is a great thing. We need to make sure we can, on the county side, we let folks know that, and that I'm sure the schools will do it. They're also doing a senior graduation program, which actually started today, Tuesdays in May. I said I wasn't going to steal their thunder, but they're basically going to announce it on their Facebook page tomorrow. And that's basically it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. I would also like to share my deep thanks to all those first responders, the Sheriff's Office, Fire and Rescue, and the folks that I think we tend to forget sometimes are all the folks at the transfer sites. I got to tell you that I was there on Friday afternoon and Sunday afternoon, and I thought we were giving away money. I mean, I thought they must be picking up $10 from the attendants because the traffic at the Bowling Green site was unbelievable. So, Mr. Schiebel, I'm sure that if you want to just share a little bit about where we are in terms of volume of trash, because I just can't get over how many folks are there.
Haven't got the total report for April, but March was the largest amount of trash in a month that I've seen in my 27 years of how much is being dumped. So residents are home. There's a lot of cleanup. It was a great weekend. Weekend before last, we were slow because it rained, but it was a very busy weekend. So one of our issues that we're starting to see is the landfills are closing their hours. They're now closing at 3 o'clock in the afternoon instead of 6 o'clock. They're closed on Saturdays and Sundays now, so that's starting to impact us of being able to take loads. So we end up putting cans on the yard Saturdays and Sundays, and then it's taking us Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to get that back up for getting ready for the next weekend. So hopefully this doesn't last too much longer, because if we continue to have decreased hours, and we're going to have to figure out how to manage solid waste. But right now we're managing.
Thank you, but I'd like to send my sincere thanks to those folks. I mean, it is incredible how busy it is.
Extremely busy.
And I was just, again, astounded at the line going in and out.
And it's at all the sites. We see a marked increase at all the sites, so it's not even one particular area. All the sites are busier.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But send my thanks to that whole department,
I
if you
will,
would.
thank you. Yeah, we've got a phone conference with everyone on Thursday, so I'll pass that along.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're good. We're good. We are going to move to amendments to the agenda, or amendments to the agenda. I can talk. Any additions, subtractions? Hearing none, I'll take a motion to adopt the agenda as presented. It's probably the one time in your life you'll only see it on the front page.
Make a motion, we accept the agenda. Or
I got a motion.
I'll second Mr. Underwood's motion.
I have a motion and a second to adopt the agenda as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. First tonight is under presentations and reports. I'm sure everybody has heard that Mr. Finney is leaving us, departing for a new position. I don't know exactly where, I don't remember where, I think it's in Richmond somewhere. Is that true, Mr. Finney? Richmond? In any event, if you'll come on down front, I'd like to at least read the resolution from the board. Resolution thanking Mr. Curtis Finney for his service to Caroline County. Whereas Mr. Curtis Finney served Caroline County as the Deputy Finance Director and Finance Director from September 18th, 2017 to May 8th, 2020. And whereas he performed his duties with integrity and worked hard on behalf of the citizens of Caroline County. And whereas Caroline County wishes to express its appreciation to Mr. Finney for his efforts during his tenure with the county. Now therefore be it resolved that Caroline County Board of Supervisors hereby thanks Mr. Curtis Finney for his service to the citizens of Caroline County and conveys its best wishes in all future endeavors. Adopted this 5th day of May 2020, signed by Mr. Charles Colley, Clerk of the Board, and myself as Chairman. Mr. Finney, thank you. And if you'll, we're going to do a picture with you in front of the podium, because it's, no, stay right behind it, because I want a picture with the oh, that's good. And I'm going to give him this to hold, Pam. Or here, you can. No, it would fly like a Frisbee. It could be deadly.
You can just Photoshop us in. I got him the small pen. Any parting words, Mr. Finney?
I guess you can tell I'm not really big on speeches. I appreciate you welcoming me into the community and into this organization. It's been an additional family Working with the administration staff and you as individual board members has been a pleasure. I must say that it was odd in the time frame that I've been with you that 4 of the 6 board members were chairmen during that stint. So that was something I felt was a little unusual based on some of the other localities I've worked in. So I did get an opportunity to work with each, well, of the 4 members on the stage at the moment in that capacity as the chairman, and working in those 2-on-2 work sessions with the school board gave me an opportunity to see how much each of you care about what happens in this county. And I think that's great for the county, and I hope the citizens appreciate that as much as we do, because I don't think the citizens truly understand what you go through as individuals in terms of sitting on a board, having your own private lives, and not really being able to go to the grocery store without someone telling you their issues. So I will tell you that I appreciate what you've done and the things that you do and how you support the county administration staff.
Thank you, Mr. Finney, and best wishes from all of us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And on that note, I hope you didn't spend a lot on this because I'm about to give you your second quarter budget report.
That is true. I was getting ready to go down to next reports and presentations, and you were next on the list, so I figured that would be your closing remarks.
Okay. Good evening, Chairman Sealy, Supervisors Thomas, Black, Forehand, Long, and Underwood, County Administration staff, and the citizens of Caroline County. Tonight, I would like to give a brief summary of the second quarter budget report comparing actual revenues and expenditures in the county's major funds and special funds with the budget estimates and appropriation for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2020 as of December 31st, 2019. This report is provided to keep management and the Board of Supervisors aware of the county's financial status. This report is unaudited and is on a modified accrued basis, and I know Mr. Thomas liked that, so that's why I made sure I put it in my outgoing presentation. Except for the utility funds, which are on a full accrual basis because they operate as a business fund. This more accurately reflects revenues and expenditures as they would show in the comprehensive annual financial report. The attached summary shows that 45.6% of budgeted revenues for the major funds have been collected or billed, and 43.7% of budgeted expenditures have been expended. From the general fund perspective for the quarter ending December 31, 2019, general funds revenues collected were $22,035,053, or 49% of our budget estimates. Our property tax collections were 1.9%, or $345,686 higher than the second quarter of last year. Local sales tax collections are 6.1% higher than FY 2019. Local communication taxes continue to decrease, falling 2.1%, or $4,845 less than the same period last year. Our business license collections continue to increase in comparison with last year's. Permit fees and licenses revenue collections are up 2.9%. Overall expenditures for the general fund at December 31st are 45% of the estimated budget, with expenditures of $24,136,402. At the end of the second quarter for fiscal year 2020, the unadjusted change in the general fund balance would be a positive $1,807,447. So right now you're starting into the third quarter with a positive fund balance unaudited where we are today. But there are a lot of expenditures to be processed and revenues collected throughout the remainder of the fiscal year. So keep that in mind as well, as that number will probably change. Schools and social services and debt retirement funds. Total revenues for Caroline County Schools is at 43% of the budget, while the total expenditures were 44% of the budget. At the end of the second quarter, schools expenditures exceed its collected revenue by 2.3%. but theirs also would require transfers from the state and federal government into their operating budget, as the county has made all of their first and second quarter transfers. I would not be too concerned about the schools at this point. They've operated in line with their budget, and I would expect them to continue the same. Social services revenues are 48% of the budgeted revenues, and expenditure for the year are 42.9% of the budget. The CSA revenues were 28.9% of the budget, and expenditures were 26.6% for the first half of the year. The debt retirement fund revenues of $4,662,000, $62,664, including transfers. For the second quarter, $700,737 in meal tax revenues were collected, which represents a 0.4% decrease from last year and 46.6% of the budget. The posted expenditures of $3,959,112 represent 45.4% of the expenditure budget. The utility funds revenues for the operating revenue for the utility funds for Caroline County were 51.2% of the budget, with $1,516,665 collected. That's on a positive note, because at mid-year you would expect or would hope to have at least 50% of your revenues collected, and the utility fund is showing a 51.2% collection rate. The availability fees were 48% of the budget, with $186,693. The operating expenses for the Caroline Utility Fund were 42.8% of the budget. Debt service payments for utility funds were 62.7% during the second quarter. The operating revenues of $1,516,665 exceeded the operating expenses of $1,295,999 to generate net operating income of $220,666 for the second quarter. Again, another positive balance coming into the new calendar year. The Don Wastewater Fund operating revenues were 45.2% of the budget. Operating expenditures are 59.8% of the budget. The total revenues of $122,601 compared to expenditures of $162,284 results in a quarter loss of $39,683. The tourism funds collected was 51% of the budget, and the expenditures were 40.9% of the budget. The expenditures for the tourism funds increased 12.6%, or $9,154, while the revenues for the end of the second quarter increased by 1.8%, or $1,824 over FY19. Transit occupancy tax up 0.7% more than last fiscal year. In conclusion, during the fiscal quarter ending December 31st, 2019, Caroline County's collections of revenue was within 6.3% of the budget for mid-year activities, while managing expenditures to within 5.1% of the budget. The school system continues to operate within its adopted budget, and utility funds generate sufficient income to cover operating expenses while needing assistance with the debt service payments. As a result of the current COVID-19 challenge, I would like to remind the board that expenditure budget savings do not necessarily equal available cash. Your actual revenues collected must exceed expenditures to realize additional cash. Based on the unrestricted fund balance, you are positioned to weather the storm. However, based on a $50 million general fund budget, your revenues will cover your first quarter expenditures. And what I'm saying is that the monies that you have in reserve right now, as you go into the new fiscal year, should be enough to cover you for your first quarter expenditures if for some strange reason your revenue just got wiped out and you didn't get anything. So be mindful of that as you plan and make adjustments to your revenues and your expenditures as you deal with COVID-19.
Thank you, Mr. Finney, for that report. Questions from the board? Mr. Black?
And this may be a Mr. Shebel question. I actually have three questions, Mr. Shebel, I may. The first one on the, is that, and I don't remember, is the Dawn wastewater one, I see there, like is that typical for the loss? Is that typical right there per quarter?
I believe most of that's probably the timing of the debt service payment.
Okay, all right, so that's fine. The second thing, and I missed maybe Mr. Cully, on the last page, total school fund expenditures, they're going down. Can someone explain that? Mr. Cully, I don't know if you can. Over the FY 18, 19, and 20, they went back up in 20 a little bit but it's down from 18.
What page are you on, Mr. Black?
Last page.
He's
If you look at
referring to the charts.
The charts, the very last page, the chart. It says total school fund expenditures, and I'm just kind of, it says in 2018 through 2020, those have, it went down in 19 and back up a little in 20, but I'm just kind of curious why that is.
I don't know right offhand. I don't know how instruction went down from 15 million to 13 million.
Yeah. Can we, is that a question we can pose to the school system? Because I'm not, unless they've changed categories or something like that, I don't understand how your instruction category goes down. And I know you can, no, it's not. It's to go down by 2 million? No. So I'm just kind of curious on that one. And then, so could you ask them, Mr. Cully?
I just have a question for Curtis. Curtis, this is showing 2 quarters of 18, 2 quarters of 19, correct?
That's correct.
It's how they spent it in 18.
Correct.
Oh, so this is not the full picture. This is just only a half
Correct.
year?
Half year.
Oh, half a year.
Okay,
He's just trending 2 quarters.
okay,
I knew the numbers looked low, so I was like, that's just 2 quarters.
okay,
So the question is still valid.
right, okay.
Different superintendent.
All right,
You had a
well,
different
is it something that we can, well, then just, can we pose the question to them, Mr. Cully, as to how it was, if you don't mind, or Mr. Parton? And then the other thing too, on the second to last page, not that it's a big deal, but the local revenue, you can see the local revenue in 18, it goes down from 18 to 20, and I was kind of curious as to.
Local revenue is not county revenue. That's that revenue they collect for, selling T-shirts. It's just.
Well, but it's gone down to nothing. That's why, is that something we can ask them why it's, not that it's a ton, I'm not saying it's a ton, but it's showing as in 20, it's barely there on the chart. So I guess my 2 questions are if we could ask them on the total school fund expenditures on that last page, and then the second to last page, the local revenue, if we could pose that question to them, I would appreciate it. That's it.
I have a question when he's done, Mr. Seeley.
I'm done.
Question for Mr. Finney. In your report, and I have to go back again, you said that the property tax revenue was up $345,000. Correct? In the data or the actual chart on page 3, which shows property tax, it's 36 million. The adopted budget in year to date is 18,154,000. That only is a difference of 130,000.
I will go back and check my numbers and verify that for you.
Well, half of 36 is 18, and half of 48 is 24, so 130,000. And then I have one other question in your conclusion. And it says the revenue is within 6.3% and the expenditures are within 5%.
Yes, sir.
Does within for revenue mean we have 6% more? And within for expenditures mean we're spending 5.1% less?
Not exactly. We're within 6% of the 50% target and 5% of the 50% target for the budget estimate at 50% for the mid-year. In March, you would want to be within 75% of your targeted budget to be on pace.
Right. But within 6.3% is within 50%. Is that within higher or within lower? That's the brunt of my question.
Right, would be lower.
Revenue is lower
Yes,
and expenditures are also lower. Same analogy?
yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Additional questions? Hearing none, thank you, Mr. Finney.
Thank you.
Best wishes in your new position. Best wishes in your new position.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 2, Rappahannock Area Community Services Board. I understand that Mrs. Gale wishes to continue. So with that, I'll take a motion.
So moved.
So moved, second.
I got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Consent agenda. I do believe that Mr. Bassoon is online to talk about the personal property tax relief. Well, I was going to say that we may want to pull C and let him, because there is a change in the formula. I know that there's been some discussion about that in the past. Mr. Parton, I'm just,
Mr. Chair, I don't want to speak for Mr. Bassoon, but he was here as backup at our request in case any questions came up.
okay.
We tried very hard to explain it thoroughly in the memo, and hopefully
I get it in the memo because it's never worked out for me in the past. I'll take a motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented then.
I have a question on D. Mr. Chairman.
Okay, you want to pull it?
I just would like to know if we could add half a sentence at the next to last whereas, or the last whereas. If we could add the words that said including electronic meetings.
I'll have to ask our legal counsel that. Mr. Emerson? Is he on?
Yeah, he's on.
Sorry, I was muted. I don't have it in front of me. Can you give me a little more information about what you're talking about?
It says, whereas Virginia Code Section 15.2-1413 authorizes any locality by ordinance to provide for methods to assure continuity in its government in the event of a disaster, such as that created by COVID-19. And I would like it to say including electronic meetings, even though that's applied.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. So we will, everybody,
Welcome.
let me, Mr. Emerson, is that the best place to put this?
Mr. Seeley, I can't tell you that. I don't have it in front of
Okay.
me. to read it, but from what Mr. Thomas read, I think it's fine to add that. Maybe it's not the best place, but it certainly provides for the electronic meeting, so I think it's fine. And we will be coming back to you to adopt that so that we don't have to do it again as an emergency ordinance for another time. We're going to come back to you with a permanent ordinance with a sunset date. It will sunset, but you won't have to continue to do this. So we can fix it then if we need to.
Let me do agenda item D separately since it's got to change.
I got a question on,
Mr. Black?
yeah, that's fine. I just got a question on C when we're done with D.
Okay, I'll take a motion to adopt consent agenda item D with the change as presented.
I'll make a motion that we adopt consent agenda item D with change as noted.
Do I have a second?
I think we lost our,
Do we lose them again? You want a second?
Yeah, you lost.
And I'll wait for them to come back.
I can hear you.
Again. You lost me again.
You still have them?
I can hear him.
Okay, so it's just the. Can they hear us?
I can hear.
Yes, yes.
Okay, they can hear. Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor if for agenda item D signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Mr. Black, you said you had something on C.
Yeah, I just have a quick question. So the percent of relief, we want the percent that we're relieving the citizens to go from 49 to 45 to 29%. So in essence, their bill will, even if it's going up a little bit, will be going up. So right now they're relieved 45% of a value.
Well, the formula.
Can I add, every year, the person's bill will go up because we have a fixed amount we get from the state. So as we get more cars with higher value, everybody has to pay more. So that percent that you get in relief goes down. And so what they've done is a cleaner formula than what they did in the past when they used to use the tax rate for your, that they had in effect when this went into place in 2002 or whatever the memo says. So now it's just a straight line math thing, and you can see. But we have so much value and only so much state money coming against it. So that's where that percentage comes out. And it'll change again next year if a bunch of people buy new cars or buy better cars. They don't have to be brand new, just that they buy cars that have more value.
If I could add to that, as you see in the example in the board packet, there's, because of the change in formula and the removal of the one step, there really is very minimal difference between the tax bill actually paid by the citizen. Even though it appears dramatic, it's not because of the revised formula.
I understand. I can just see I think it's optics. Just gonna be honest with you. In a time when people are struggling, I can see the biggest issue that I always get from constituents isn't the real estate tax. People are always complaining about our personal property tax. And they are very, very sensitive to that. And I mean, the only thing for me is it's an optics of it going up.
Right, you just have to explain it the way we just heard it, because it is what it is, and remind them we didn't raise real estate tax.
It's the total value of all the personal property and then what the relief is. So as the value goes up and the relief stays the same, everybody's tax goes up some small amount to make up the delta for the more expensive personal property bill. And with vehicles getting more expensive, this gets more and more complicated, because what used to be an expensive vehicle is $25,000, now a new pickup's $50,000 or $60,000. So the value of personal property takes leaps and bounds up. And the amount of money we get from the state is fixed. They haven't changed that amount since they've passed the personal property tax relief. That's the real fixed number, is the amount that the state provides us. But the amount of personal property value that we now have is probably, Mr. Bassoon can probably, it's probably double or more than what it was when they passed that. It's probably triple.
But don't you think an average citizen, I mean, well, not average, but someone who is looking at their bill, they're gonna see, hey, my bill went up. Why'd my bill go up?
Yeah, but my
But
$400,000.
Mr. Black, if I may, the other advantage of this is that actually, you know, you can do the math and come up with, yes, my bill went down by 29%, whereas before, if you did the math, doesn't equal 45%.
Okay.
That's the problem I had. Mr. Bassoon, was that you?
Yes, I just want to add that, you know, just keep in mind when we do these formulas and when we're doing this, we take into account that set amount of money plus a little tiny bit of carryover from the prior year, which for the last couple of years, we've had a little bit of carryover. You know, the board can always move to do what they want with this. We always take into account using what the state has allotted for plus the carryover, and we leave a little bit of buffer in there just to be sure, you know, working with the numbers, ins and outs, abatements and supplements throughout the year, that we still have enough in there to cover with the amount of movement in and out of the county for, you know, for this upcoming year. But Mr. Emerson, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, right now that's how we do it, but I think the board can change the numbers around if they want, as far as the percentages and different things.
Well, I'm sure they could reduce the tax rate, but I'm not sure other than that.
Yeah, and I'm not suggesting it. I'm just giving an explanation of how we're trying to utilize what we have with the amount of vehicles we have, with the values. We've been on a 3 to 5% uptick in inventory since 2016, 2017, and the money is getting more and more scarce by using what we have.
Mr. Bassoon, this is non-commercial vehicles, correct?
This will apply to all qualifying vehicles.
Technically, yes.
It's personal, it's not for business use.
Okay.
Right, it's different. To say commercial, you can't blanket it. It applies to some, it doesn't apply to other.
Okay, so it's business.
Yes, everything that qualifies for personal property tax relief, it's allotted to those items.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Do we want to go ahead and do A, B, and C on the consent agenda? Can I get a motion for the three of those? We can do them separate.
No.
Make a motion?
We can definitely do A and B together. And we've already done D, right?
We've already done D.
So I move that we adopt consent agenda A and B.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda item C.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve agenda item C
As presented.
as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay, roll call vote.
Aye.
Nay.
Wait a minute, wait. I gotta go down the list.
Okay.
Mr. Forehand,
Aye.
Mr. Black,
Nay.
Mr. Underwood,
Nay.
Mr. Thomas,
Aye.
Mrs. Long,
Aye.
and I'll vote aye. I mean, we can't change the amount of money the state gives us. And we're past that point, so. All right. Agenda item number 4. Mr. Cully, do you want to start with agenda item number 4?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. Let's see if I can get this going. Cool. Y'all can see that and hear me, can't you? On my mouse. All right, this is revised from what I had sent you before. Total budget of $110,122,575, which is 6.64 than the previous fiscal
We
year.
have lost you, so if you're still talking, we're not hearing.
I'm still talking.
This is going to be a challenging evening.
Sorry. I can hear y'all, but
I can hear you.
I understand. We just can't hear him.
I don't understand why they're
If we wait, it will come back.
why they're losing us on that end. But anyway, they have some sort of problem there because I think everybody on the remote can hear fine.
Yeah, I hear you fine.
Verifying security, so it's on its way.
I can hear you fine as well.
There we go. We're back.
All right. The general fund budget is $55,476,752, which is $2,195,451, or 4.12% more than the previous fiscal year. Of the $2,195,451 increase to the general fund, $2,450,000 is for the final payment to VDOT for Route 639 Smart Scale, which is the same as we had pointed out before. Without the VDOT payment to the general fund, the number is $53,026,752, which is $254,549, or 0.48% less than the previous fiscal year. The total budget is comprised of 40.55% local revenues, 32.88% state revenues, 5.10% federal revenues, and 21.6% transfers from miscellaneous sources. Proposes zero used from the general fund balance to balance the budget, which is $2,804,511, or 100% different from the previous fiscal year. No proposed tax increase because you've already adopted the tax rates, but I left that in there just to remind everybody. Don't forget the reassessment will become effective 1/1/21, and this budget does include $150,000 to complete that project. Includes local transfer to school operating fund of $14,540,641, which is zero more than previous fiscal year. It does include transfers to the operating fund for bus leases of $275,087, a change of $285 to the lease negative because the bus lease is down a little bit. It projects $1,603,293, or 5.99 in additional state funding. And I don't have a clue what the state money is yet. This is the old numbers. So I take all this with a grain of salt. It is a reduction from the school request in local funds of $1,670,700, the same as before. School capital projects, I cut some of this, $25,000 to classroom technology, that had been 50, $25,000 to staff computers, that also had been 50, $40,000 for the storage area network, $100,000 for the fire alarms at Lewis and Clark in the school board office, and $20,000 for their voice over IP phone servers and support, which is an ongoing thing that they're constantly doing. The stuff that's highlighted, if you can see it, is in green. That is from the Carolina Detention Center Fund. $50,000 for a van trailer and $100,000 for maintenance and student transport vehicles. That's proposed to be borrowed. And $541,047 is cash from the general fund to purchase 5 buses. That's on our normal 5-bus rotation. So their capital projects, school CIP, $901,047. That would be $210,000 from the Carolina Detention Center Fund, $150,000 from lease financing for the vehicles, and $507,690. That should be $541, but anyway, I had it something wrong. From transfer for schools buses. They work on it constantly. You don't see it. We did receive 13 full-time positions requested at a cost of $820,514. Five fire positions, 4 deputy, 2 dispatch, 1 registrar's office position, and 1 purchasing agent part-time, 24-hour additional to full-time. I didn't propose any new positions other than adding the 24 hours for the purchasing agent, $26,869. Proposes continuing using the 15-year rule from the compensation study for those eligible employees at a cost of $3,747, and proposes no cost of living or merit for anybody. Total proposed 15-year rule cost of merit increases and health insurance and benefits $55,558. CSA is the same budget as last year. Required local match is going up $11,884 or 1.63%. Social service budget is $2,213,105, which is increasing $51,909 or 1.64%. However, we're getting more funds from the state, so the general fund transfer to social services is decreasing $243,287 or 31%. Total outside agency contributions are level funded at $282,870. There's no increase in any of those. Capital projects are the same as I told you about before because they're all financed. And given the low financing rates, I left all these in. It's $6,431,296 for the following projects: 9 new sheriff's vehicles, which $389,296, a new ambulance to replace one from 2011, be retired, $212,000, 2 new fire trucks, engine 1 and engine 10, and engine 10 being a commercial, regular commercial cab like our reserve engine, which is much cheaper. So the total of those 2 trucks, $845,000, and then still for 2 replacement vehicles and admin and IT, for a total of $1,606,296 for finance vehicles. $4 million for Sparta and Carmel Church fire stations. That'll be financed for 15 years. Additional $500,000 for Ladysmith convenience site relocation for 10 years. We've already got some money saved that we borrowed and saved up for that project. And then a parking lot expansion at CCCS over 10 years for a total finance for infrastructure, at least 10 to 15 year financing, $4,650,000. We do have $175,000 for replacement for the county telephone system, which is out of production. And basically, you cannot buy new parts. You have to source used parts on eBay and other open marketplaces, but our system is not being produced. So we're a lightning strike and or electrical surge from having a major issue with our phone system. Not only will we also save money by turning off all of the regular POTS lines that we pay, $30 some a line or more once we go to voice over IP. So sources for the revenue for the capital budgets financed at 4 to 10 years in the amount of $1,606,296. Buildings and infrastructure financed between 10 and 15 years for $4,650,000, and a transfer from the CDF fund of $175,000 for the phone system. The total expense to the FY21 budget and all those new finances is $130,572. Obviously, more of that will come online in the FY22 budget. Debt service is decreasing $502,227. Schools debt service is decreasing $20,000 or 0.41%. County debt service payments decreasing $481,876 or minus 12.83%. Our total general fund debt service payments are equal to $8,217,548 or down 5.76%, which is that 502 number at the top of the chart. School debt service payments equal $4,945,023. County debt service payments equal $3,272,525. Proposed use of the CDF funds proposed to transfer that $175 to CIP for the VoIP phone. Proposed to transfer $210 to the school CIP for the projects I had listed. Proposed to transfer $955,800 to the general fund as just general fund revenue. We may not ultimately need that, but as an insurance policy, given the way that the world's working. Total transfer from the CDF fund is $1,340,000. Current fund balance is $665,930, and the projected fund balance for FY at 6/30/20 is $565,000. So add that into our minimum balance, and we should be able to make the $1,348,000. Utilities. We project in 44 new water and sewer connections. That's $316,036 increase in connection fee revenue. Proposed to spend $400,000 for water supply well development, $350,000 for South River sewage pump station and forest main project, and $500,000 for water system interconnection, $435,000 for sludge handling at the waste water treatment plant, $250,000 for Caroline Pines additional pressure zone, and $155,000 in generators at the Econo Lodge and Days Inn Wells. The general fund transfer to utility system debt service is $1,585,017, which is a decrease of $622,735, or 28.21%. Utilities, we would finance $1,685,000 for 15 years at 3.5%. We finance those generators, $155,000 for 10 years at 3.25%. The total expense to the utility fund for the financing in FY21 is $39,470, and debt service payments are changing, going down for utilities, $607,678. I'd like to thank Curtis Finney, Director of Finance, and Alan Parton, Deputy County, for helping put the revised budget together. And with that, I should be able to show any spreadsheets anybody wants to see. But any questions?
That's exactly where I was going. I know it's probably going to be difficult to even look at budget numbers. We still don't know the state number and some other funds that may or may not be available. But questions from board members?
Just a few.
Go ahead, Mr. Black.
I do have, on the school buses, Mr. Cully, that we're purchasing, are those air conditioned?
Not that I'm aware of.
They're not air conditioned buses.
It's another like 10 or 15. It's a.
I thought we were phasing those in. Can you pose that question to them, Mr. Parton, Mr.? Yeah, it's not really a question, but a statement, Mr. Shebel. The trend on the utilities going down, is that something we're going to continue to see, or is it just like a 1 year kind of anomaly with our utilities debt service payments going down and the negative 600,000?
You won't see another 600,000 next year, but it is trending downward as we're paying some things off and due to some refinancing that's been done.
Okay.
But Mr. Sheba, we are going to have to make a repair that's fairly significant in cost out of Carmel Church in the next couple of years. Is that still the case?
The biggest issue that we've got that we're facing now is the collection system and how we move wastewater from the Carmel Church, or from the Ladysmith area to the wastewater treatment plant. Currently, it goes through Carmel Church through the main line there. So by moving that, it opens up additional flow through the Carmel Church system. So we'd be able to handle additional capacity there. But
we're going to have to build that at some point.
Correct. Yep.
Any idea what that cost might be? Just I don't know, a ballpark figure?
$6 million.
Okay.
So we do have to look at upgrading the South River pump station, VDOT pump station, sooner than later. We're about 94% capacity at the pump station for Ladysmith. So any growth that happens in Ladysmith is going to impact that pump station. So we are currently performing a PER, preliminary engineering report, on upgrading that system and putting all the pieces together to be able to put together the actual bid documents to be able to put that forth.
I just wanted to, it's not a small sum of money. I know we've got to do it. It's a fairly large chunk. So what we're saving now, we're eventually probably, we're not going to spend as much, but we're going to have to increase debt service to get that actually complete.
Yes, sir.
But thank you.
Thank you.
Growth is coming to Ladysmith.
What is?
Growth.
Oh, I agree, but we're gonna have to spend, we're gonna have to repair that wastewater line. I knew it was gonna be expensive, I just didn't know. I knew it was 5 to 6 million. I didn't know what the number really, what the ballpark, and it's, going up every year, so I know we're gonna have to do that.
Mr. Sealy,
Mr. Thomas?
I wanted to make sure I heard Mr. Forehand. He said growth is coming to Ladysmith, so some of that revenue would be able to pay for this?
No, the statement was in reference to the 94% capacity that we're at right now. And so just basically saying, yes, we're going to need it.
Well, we're
sooner
also
than-
building
sooner than later.
houses. Isn't Pendleton actually opening up another phase, Mr.
Pendleton's
Shebel?
growing.
Pendleton's growing, the 55 and over, the Tractor Supply,
Right.
you know,
So,
Yeah, but it's the second part of that, of my statement. Of course, we know there's growth coming to Ladysmith and we are going to need it. So some of the revenue and business we get from Ladysmith will help pay it off, right?
it's always a hope.
yeah, I would,
Okay.
Why wouldn't it?
right. You had another question, Mr. Black?
Yeah, Mr. Cully, I just want to clarify on your, the positions you had in the budget, like the firefighters and so forth, those are not in, correct?
That is correct. The only position is taking our part-time, which is vacant right now, purchasing agent from 3 days a week to full-time 5 days a week. We're having a hard time filling that and keeping anybody with it being part-time and the training level of what that job takes. I mean, it's a fairly, it grades out pretty high. And so it's just tough to keep anybody. We get them trained and they get a job with another county.
What position was that again?
Purchasing.
Purchasing agent, okay. Mr. Cully, we still have in the budget, because it's been very helpful, Mr. Shebel's reports on the litter pickup. That is still.
That is correct. That is correct. I don't consider that a new position, even though we didn't fill it.
Okay, and Mr. Shebel, we are working on filling that position, correct? Because, I mean, it is something we've had in the budget for over a year and it hasn't been filled yet.
We have not advertised again for that position. We wanted to come before the board. We've got a way that we think we can take care of that in-house and wanted to present that to the board as soon as we get approval to get that on the agenda with the shortened COVID agendas. That hasn't made it before you yet.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
Yes,
Mrs.
when
Long?
can we get Mr. Cully's report, line report to us, either email, and if I have trouble reading that, I hate
Paper?
to ask for a paper copy if I
I'm sure that can be provided tomorrow. That probably isn't going to be a problem.
And when do we need to take up the budget again? When does it need to be approved by?
We have to approve it by the end of June.
Correct.
Is that
June 30th.
correct?
Yeah, I would propose, and what we'd like to do is advertise for public hearing on May 26th. See what the public thinks, and then you could look at adopting it on your June day meeting. I can't remember the specific date, I need a calendar, but 10th or maybe somebody around there probably knows.
The 9th of June.
9th of June. That's what we're planning for right now.
I mean, from all indications, I mean, I will say that I've watched Fredericksburg let 43 employees go on the 2nd of May. My real goal is to maintain all of our employees where we are today. If that's really a goal with the shape that county budgets are in. I've heard other counties are looking at actually cutting employees in the next 2 to 4 weeks. I know that there are budgets that are, based on sales tax, meals tax, and those kinds of revenues have just fallen off a cliff. So if we can maintain our employee base and keep everybody employed that we currently have in their situation now, it would, to me, would be the most advantageous thing we could do in this whole scenario for all of our staff.
I would agree with that wholeheartedly. If that's a goal that we can achieve, that's what we should be trying to do.
That really is my goal at this point.
I will tell you, I've got local sales tax down 7.5%. And the number I got from VACO was about 228,000 higher than that. So I've cut our sales tax pretty significantly. Hopefully we can do better. The other one I've cut pretty significantly is B-Pole. And you heard in Curtis' report, we were doing pretty good on B-Pole, but I've cut that 26%, not because I think all the businesses are going to go out, but one of our big drivers is is gas, and all of the gas we sell at Carmel Church and at Ladysmith exits, and diesel and all that stuff. So that plays a pretty big chunk of our business license. So I have taken that one down pretty significantly. I've also taken meals tax down pretty significantly, which that's in the debt. Meals tax is in the revenue on the debt service fund.
School debt service?
Debt service altogether. Debt service, debt retirement fund, schools and county altogether. So the revenue is just one big revenue. But you could say it's all going to schools. That's fine.
Well, that's what the referendum was for. That money goes to schools, and the way you account it is fine. But you said at our last meeting, our net loss was close to $3 million, but what we would lose permanently was closer to $1 million, right?
Correct. And that's in current year. We're talking now 21. So we're anticipating that we're going to come somewhat out of all this by the start of 21. So we might be down in July and August, and hopefully as we move forward through the year, these revenues will recover.
Well, that's kind of what I was trying to interpolate is if the fourth quarter of 2020, we lose $1 million, maybe we will lose $1 million or less in the first quarter of 21. Is that the impression you're getting, or?
I'm not anticipating losing $1 million in the first quarter unless we have a lot of people not pay personal property.
No, well, that's money that we eventually expect to get.
But it may not have it in the first quarter.
Right. Okay.
I don't anticipate that to be the. Yes, personal property.
We've lost the audio and video again for those online. Hang on a second.
Okay.
Can they hear me, Jeff, when I?
Yeah, yes.
We hear you.
I'm just about there.
Oh, the funny thing is they can't see us.
I can see you just fine.
No, but the
Now you're back.
I know.
the screen at the board, they can't see it.
I think they see us, but more or less.
No, we can't hear or see you when you disappear.
Okay.
Because I'm watching on YouTube.
Oh, okay. Wonder what's causing that. We haven't had this problem before.
It's everybody on the internet tonight.
Evidently, as you can see, here's the meals tax number in the revenues for the debt retirement fund, and so I've cut that down 35%. Moving into next year. So it's pretty significantly, it's down about 276,000. So when you figure that plus the couple $100,000 down on the depot and then, we're closing in on $1 million. It's not in the 21 budget. I'll add it up for you if you want. I hadn't done that math. And I've taken some other revenues a little bit down, just thinking they may be down.
Thank you, Charlie.
Any other questions from board members? All right, I'm going to move us on to agenda item number 5. And I think with the addition of the Rappahannock Electric Tower, I think there's some real promise. David, do you want to talk a little bit about this? Because we talked about this after the last board meeting. Mr. Underwood, you weren't here, but after the meeting, a couple of us got together and actually talked about this.
So I've begun discussion with REC, and they're in the process of checking to see if we can get access to that tower, for a quicker wireless solution that would be faster than the installation of the fiber down to that point, which that's a long-term plan for them to put fiber to that tower, and then it will be a more permanent solution. But in the meantime, if we could get access to that tower, we could create a link from that tower back to Carmel Church, and have a solution fairly quick if we can get access to that tower.
So it would give you a node just like you have here at the Community Services Building around the building?
Yes, or like the node that we have at the high school where we relay between points. So it would go from Carmel Church to the REC tower, and then from the REC tower down to a small pole located on the property of the library. So there's no major construction expense there. And that
one thing I would add is we pick up internet at the tower at Carmel Church too. It's, David, so it's not riding across our internet that the rest of the county network is running on.
That's correct. We have a separate internet connection that could feed the system from Carmel Church. So it would not be consuming part of the Verizon connection that we currently use to conduct county business.
Any
So
idea
you're
how
saying
long?
you're saying that's a public connection?
Which connection is public?
The Verizon one is county. The other one would be just a public internet connection?
It's not necessarily a public connection. It's a private connection that the county is currently paying for, but it would be separate from our county network. We have a second connection that is the largest connection that we could possibly get over cable, and that's at Carmel Church. And in the case that the fiber would be cut and there was a long-term outage on Verizon's part, we could use that as a backup internet. But that connection is separate from our Verizon connection and could serve to feed the connection at Dawn Library.
Any idea how long it'll be before they give us an answer on the tower?
We have a follow-up meeting set next week. Maybe we can get an idea at that point. I did stress to the representative that I was speaking to that we're in desperate need to improve the internet service at Dawn Library so that we could extend that access outside.
Will that also give us better connection to the fire station? Can we triangulate to there also?
If we go to the library, then we'll be looking at fiber installation, I think is included in that memo. There's an estimate.
Right.
Fiber up to the firehouse. And then that would, yes, that would give you a better connection to internet at the Company 5 fire station.
So once we get some sort of answer from REC, we'll have a better idea of what it would take to implement that plan.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
How is, just
What question?
Go ahead, Mr. Thomas.
Question? David and I need to talk to make sure we're talking to the right co-op folks, or at least ones that can get us a yes. Because if we connect to a tower and they're willing to do fiber, we may be able to kill two birds with one stone. So I will reach out to you tomorrow morning, Mr. Sadler.
All right, and I agree with your statement earlier. I think we should move forward to at least try to do maybe a Zoom meeting of that committee.
Yeah, yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Black?
Wouldn't it, I don't know, how's the connection like in Port Royal? I mean, how are the connections up in some of these, I mean, Dawn, yes, absolutely, but in some of the other rural areas?
Port Royal's got Atlantic Broadband.
Okay, what about, okay.
Mr. Seeley, let me clarify that the Atlantic Broadband is only in the town.
Right.
It does not go down 17 or go toward Portabago and Essex and Sparta Road. It doesn't hit that side of the district. But the town is covered, but the rest of the area is not.
Okay, I was just thinking as far as some of our, you had talked about the fire station, but like Sparta Fire Station and so forth, if we can all get all these public buildings to have enhanced internet.
Atlantic is getting ready to turn on their fiber coming up Sparta Road. It's coming down Newtown and up Sparta.
Okay.
So that will hit that fire station.
Okay.
So yeah, But Mr. Thomas is right, we need to see if we can't get, if we get the tower, how do we then facilitate some fiber that generates something for others?
Okay.
And they've got 122 strand fiber they're laying in the ground.
Right.
So that's it. And to Mr. Black's point, we have dead areas in Woodford, and we have dead areas, you know, in Mattapanai, Ladysmith Road, and a lot in Dawn. So anything we get is a bonus.
I mean, we've got dead areas everywhere.
Don't forget
Page Road. I mean, we've got a lot of major areas, but if we can just one bite at a time figure out how to do this, I think we gain some momentum.
That's exactly what we do, Jeff. This is our pilot project.
Yep.
And we need to make this a success, and then we can just duplicate it over and over again, because they want to connect to their substations, and everybody knows where a substation is.
Exactly true.
And Mr. Chairman, this is going to be critical for the help with school to enhance their learning process in terms of children accessing the internet. So it's pretty critical for my area. So I'm glad to hear that. So that's good. Good news.
If David, if you just give us an update, and I would like to see the committee now get together and we can set that up. Mr. Thomas and I'll, if you get a chance to chat with him tomorrow morning, it'll be hard for me, but we can work from there.
Okay. If we can just get a couple of dates from you guys, and then
Yep.
we'll set out the invites and get that rolling.
I can give you dates tomorrow.
All right,
All
thank you.
right. Any other questions?
Mr. Seeley, I will just also say that I discovered today that there is a staff member on Whitman's staff who is looking out for all the grants that are coming federal-wide and then also statewide, and I'm getting his information to pass to the committee.
Okay,
You may as well have as many
Yep.
hot fires out there as you can.
I agree.
And then Governor's office has more money available this year too, so tap into that.
Well, I'm waiting to see what their new budget actually passes with. That's been the question. I've been trying to ping on everybody I know that's got their,
It started at 19, but yeah.
right, we're waiting to see.
What did he say? What did Mr. Black say
I
without his
said
mic
the
on?
governor's office, I said reach out to the governor's office as well, because they had increased theirs, and Mr. Seeley responded that, which is very true, waiting for the new budget numbers, but yeah, they've increased the budget from 4 million over the last couple of years to 19 million this year, but now with this crisis, we don't know if it'll still be 19, but they did say at some of the VACO meetings that the counties that were ready to go with plans were the ones who were getting the money, so that's why it's very, very important to have some sort of plan in place so we can access some of that money.
And Atlantic Broadband has a complete plan in place and funds to match, so I'm hoping they're gonna resubmit with either another county or two in that mix in this next round, because that would have given us, and we're actually looking at adding a project, I think.
Right.
Okay, that's the
A
end of the
conference call a
agenda.
couple of weeks ago. I think I sent the board members notes from that,
Yes,
and basically the state cut their budget. So what they'd offered us before as an increase, they went back to what they had last year.
Okay.
there's nothing definite yet. We are at the end of the agenda. Any other, I was gonna go to closing board comments. Mr. Forehand,
I don't have any comments, thank you.
Mr. Black,
None.
Mr. Underwood,
None?
Mrs. Long?
I just want to continue to remind citizens, don't take this to granted. Be careful still, follow your precautions, stay 6 feet apart.
Mr. Thomas?
I wanted to follow up again on Mrs. Long's census point. We do need to make sure we do it. I got an email this morning from Mrs. Rollins who's doing that, and she said we have certain areas that are under reporting. So if we can send out whatever we need to for the census, that's going to be great. And again, like Mrs. Long said, we need to remind each other that we're all in this together, and some people are affected a little bit, but everything we do affects everybody else. So be safe, be smart. Thank you.
Can we send out a care line alert to announce, to remind people to fill out their census? Is that something we could do? Because that, I mean, it's a lot of people. Can we?
Great idea.
Can we look at that, Mr. Pardon? I'm looking at Mr. Pardon and Mr. Culley's somewhere behind me, so.
I agree. We'll get it done.
So he gets tasking just because he's the one I see. Hearing no other comments, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you, everybody, for our meeting. We only had 2 or 3 drops, so it was a new experience. We're done.
Thank you.